Happy Sunday. I'm Reverend Kathy from Unity North Spiritual Center in Coon Rapids, Minnesota. Welcome to our Sunday lesson on September 13th, 2020. And we begin in peace and love. And whoever you are, wherever you are on your spiritual path, you're welcome at Unity. We're glad you're with us today. And if you're new, check out our website. And I invite everybody to right now because we have some special events. And the website is unitynorthmn for Minnesota.org, unitynorthmn.org. Good for You Day starts Friday night on the 18th, coming right up, and will last for a week. So there's lots of exciting things to check out there. And then our upcoming special event in October, and I'll talk more about that in my lesson today. So, and for your donations and gifts, I just want to say thank you so much. They're all so appreciated, and you are all such a blessing during this time of closure. I shouldn't say closure. Well, it is closure, but it's also this time of virtual church because we do continue on virtually. And that is a whole new world, a whole new experience. So we hope you join us in some classes. The last class I taught had people from 5 different states. I mean, that's how exciting this new time can be. And so join us for that. So today's daily word, I'll begin with the daily word, is love. I open my heart in love. I express the love I feel in my heart by showing my affection and giving nurturing attention. I speak loving, positive words that let those I care about know how much they mean to me. As my words affirm their goodness, beauty, and intelligence, I watch those qualities bloom like flowers blessed by sunshine. I extend my arms and embrace my family and friends with the warmth and comfort of unconditional love. I support my loved ones with compassion and care on their journey through life. I share my wisdom as I teach, my experience as I advise, and my understanding as I console. I pray for those I love, knowing that the Christ within them is the light that guides them everywhere they go and in everything they do. I am grateful for my role in my loved ones' lives. And from 1 John 3:18, little children, let us love, not in word or speech, but in truth and action. Our lesson today is called Blessing and Awe, Via Positiva. According to theologian Matthew Fox, we are here to get drunk on the universe. If we believe that we live in a soulless, inert machine, there is no room for intoxication, no place to dance, to be spontaneous, to be joyful, to be overcome with awe. And Fox says that one reason for the tremendous addiction problem in our culture is that we have no sacred place to get intoxicated on the mysteries of the universe. So we seek chemical ways to get high. Well, today's lesson focuses on the first path of creation spirituality, which is all about blessing and awe. When we become aware of our many blessings, we become awestruck with the wonders of creation. We move into the divine stream of giving and receiving. The more that we receive from the universe, the more grateful we are, and the more we want to give. Well, there was a politician who was wanting to receive, and so he gave. He sent out thousands of letters to voters in his county requesting funds to help finance his re-election. The letters were addressed simply, occupant. A few days later, he received one check for $100,000. Politician could hardly believe his eyes. Who was his benefactor? Quickly, he looked at the name on the check. It was signed, Occupant. Well, the whole universe is rushing, streaming, pouring into each one of us with its unlimited possibilities while we express ourselves in the creative effort of life. It is a great dance of giving and receiving. But it is essential that we awaken to the gift of creation and treat it with reverence and awe. Today is the first of a 4-week series on creation spirituality and unity, and I thought it would be important for you to understand something about Matthew Fox and his teachings before we host him in the special virtual event on Saturday, October 3rd. For us to host such a world-renowned speaker successfully, it is important for each of us to help market that event. And so this is a call. I really ask you to do that. I invite you to please forward the flyer you received to your friends, the flyer that has registration information, or to invite your friends to go to our website at unitynorthmn.org to register. Truly, together we can make this a successful event, but it will take all of us. And that's important so that we can have more speakers of that caliber. Creation spirituality, like unity, is a spiritual tradition and a movement. It was rediscovered and brought to light by Matthew Fox in his exploration of ancient mystical teachings. It integrates the wisdom of Western and Eastern spirituality and global indigenous cultures with the emerging scientific understanding of the universe and the passionate creativity of art. It is a meeting of science, art, and mysticism. So creation spirituality, like unity, teaches that each of us has to discover our true self. And the spiritual journey takes us beyond the superficial life into the depths of self. Fox named the journey of self-discovery that each of us takes in 4 paths: the via positiva, via negativa, via creativa, and via transformativa. And each of these paths describes an aspect of the life journey that we take to know our wholeness. So starting today with via positiva, Matt Fox in his book Original Blessing said, "Let there be no question about it. What has been most lacking in society and religion in the West for the past 6 centuries has been a via positiva, a way or path of affirmation, thanksgiving, ecstasy. Via positiva is about awe and wonder and delight and all the blessings of creation. When we delve into this path, we realize we are blessed from the beginning, and we are also a blessing." Just think for a moment about your blessings. Just take a moment. And I bet in this moment, you've already come up with a number of them. Once we start doing this, the list can go on and on. From our loved ones to all of the functions of our bodies, to our homes, our work, the beauty all around us, the amazing species of life on the planet, not to mention the rest of the universe. One could spend hours. The next time you feel burdened by your troubles, stop the worry and begin to count all the blessings you can think of. It can change your attitude completely. And if you have trouble sleeping at night, count every blessing of the day, and it will make a difference. This idea of blessing, however, is not only about counting and appreciating all that we have received. It really gets to the essence of our life on this planet, particularly in this culture. In other words, blessing has not been the traditional teaching in the Western world. The basic Christian premise is called fall redemption theology, and it begins with the concept of the fall, a fall in the distant past that supposedly occurred in the Garden of Eden when Adam and Eve messed up. The story goes that God told Adam and Eve not to eat of the fruit in the garden, but a serpent whispered to Eve and beguiled her, and she ate the fruit and then convinced Adam to eat it. So their disobedience got them thrown out of the garden. They fell out of paradise. And supposedly, according to this teaching, humankind is still suffering for their original sin. Fall redemption theology teaches us that this fall out of paradise will be redeemed in a future heaven as we accept Jesus Christ now as Lord and Savior. Well, this is not what unity or creation spirituality believes. Both teach that we were born in original blessing, not in original sin. We have been blessed by the universe for billions of years before St. Augustine and other church fathers created and embraced the concept of original sin. That's one reason why in Unity we use rose petals in the christening ceremony to symbolize our divine unfoldment, our original blessing, not original sin that has to be washed away with water. Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, co-founders of Unity, said, "The whole secret of the demonstration of Christ is that we shall come to know our original sinlessness." They also claimed there never was a fall of man, but that our creation was spiritual, and that we are just as spiritual today as we ever were or ever will be. Matthew Fox did not invent creation spirituality. He rediscovered many of the teachings after a long journey through and beyond the Catholic Church and into the mysticism of the West and the East. He is said to be the most famous Dominican priest who has ever lived. He was excommunicated by the Vatican, which certainly added to his fame. He was first silenced by the Vatican for his radical teachings about original blessing and also for his avid feminism and support of gay rights, quite radical for a Catholic priest. Well, over a 30-year period, Fox was engaged in conducting a wisdom school, which was for many years in Oakland, California. He brought together scientists, artists, mystics, and social activists to help create a new culture. In other words, he's been on the cutting edge of creating new paradigms in theology, science, mysticism, education, and politics. His faculty has included mathematical cosmologist Brian Swimme, dream worker, the late Jeremy Taylor, and many others, including mystic and scholar Andrew Harvey. The fact that he had Starhawk, a white witch, as one of his faculty members did not sit well with the Vatican either. Well, later Fox tells, when he was in the middle of writing his book called The Reinvention of Work, the doorbell rang, and he received his pink slip from the Pope. After 34 years of service as a Dominican priest, he was excommunicated and had to reinvent his work. Well, I attended the master's program at Matthew Fox's school, the University of Creation Spirituality, when it was in Oakland. And it was a most amazing educational experience. I loved it and still consider it a real blessing in my life. Just as Charles and Myrtle Fillmore did not invent any new teachings, neither did Matthew Fox, but they each had a mission to reinterpret ancient teachings in light of contemporary wisdom. So thankfully, they let go of the concept of original sin and focused on blessing. Do you realize the importance of the difference between a mass conscious belief in fall redemption and sin, as opposed to a belief in original blessing? It is the difference in collective unworthiness and worthiness, in condemnation of others and acceptance of others. The difference is being programmed with shame and guilt versus a sense of joy and wonder. It seems to me unworthiness is a universal issue, and the lack of self-esteem that goes with it. It really is the bottom line for many of us. You know, both of my sons had experiences related to this when I was in ministerial school in Lee's Summit, Missouri. Justin, my youngest, who was 6 at the time, was going to after school care in a woman's home with a small group of children. And one day I went to pick him up, and he was very, very upset. I'm trying to remember the details. I believe he and the woman's son had been digging in the ground together, and he told Justin if he wasn't careful, he would go to hell, that it's a dark and fiery place. It was in the earth past the deepest hole he could think of, and that we are sinners and could easily go there if we're not good. And the boy's mother shared his belief. Well, I pulled Justin out of that daycare the very next day. My son Chris was 12 when we moved to Missouri, and he was aching for a friend. Well, he finally found one, and he was so excited. But one day after school, he went to his friend's house, and his mother learned from Chris that I was attending Unity School. And she told Chris he could never play with her son again. Well, Chris was devastated. I called her later to try to make things right, and she told me we were of the dark side, we were miserable sinners, we were going to hell. Well, I told Chris, never forget how that felt to be discriminated against, and never treat anyone else that way either. And he never has. He's never forgotten it. This belief they encountered stems from the concept of original sin. One way of understanding creation spirituality and unity as well is to see that they are the opposite of fundamentalism. When we speak of fundamentalism, it's not pointing the finger at a certain church. It's pointing the finger at a certain aspect of every church when people become narrow-minded and limited and judgmental in their thinking. And that can include unity. One has to stay awake. So we must reject the unworthiness and the low self-esteem that comes with those teachings that would keep us less than our unlimited selves. Some children were asked, how can you make people feel better about themselves? 8-year-old Reem said, well, if someone says to me, I feel that no one likes me, I would say, well, I like you, and if the people don't like you, they're not the right people for you. But the people that think you're special are special, because deep inside your heart, way inside, if you really feel deep down, you'll find you are special. Caitlin, age 9, said, if they don't feel like they're pretty, you could say, well, you're a lot prettier than a person I know who has big, bulgy eyes. And Jacqueline, age 8, said, everyone should have an alarm clock that says nice things to them in the morning when they wake up. A lack of self-esteem has to do with powerlessness and guilt and shame. It is the source of abuse and addiction in our culture. And the opposite, worthiness and self-esteem, is the remedy for healing and wholeness. So original blessing is the same as the basic premise of unity. There's only one presence and one power in the universe, God the good, omnipotent. God is good. God is blessing. We find God, we find good by looking for the blessing in all things. And in unity, we call that practicing the presence, or practicing the presence of God. Whether we think of God as the universe, or as a part of ourself, or as the first fireball that began everything, or as an energy field, the force, or a divine parent, or even if we would prefer to use a different word than God, we can still look for the blessing in everything that happens and feel a connection with something beyond our personalities. Creation spirituality talks about the great fireball that began the universe, and that each of us must find a cosmology, which is an understanding of our place in the universe. Unity talks about one presence and one power in the universe, and the bottom line for both traditions is original blessing. Children have some wonderful ideas about God, and the book Children's Letters to God has been around a while, but some of these comments bear repeating. And I may have spoken about these in a talk recently, but they're always wonderful to hear. Dear God, in Sunday school, they told us what you do. Who does it when you're on vacation? Love, Jane. Dear God, how did you know you were God? Charlene. Dear God, did you really create the hippopotamus? Dear God, who draws the lines around the countries? Good question. Well, do we begin in shame and guilt, or in awe and wonder and blessing? Difficult decision. Just look at a newborn baby. The answer is simple. Are we worthy children of God, heirs to the kingdom, queendom, a divine state of consciousness, or are we somehow lacking? I read that a Sunday school child was asked what the sins of omission were, and she responded, "They are the sins we ought to have committed but haven't yet." Well, so if we have the sins of commission, that's okay. So we're born in original blessing, and the more we count our blessings in gratitude, the more we become awestruck by life, by the universe. Gratitude is not the result of things that happen to us. It's an attitude we cultivate by practice. The more we're thankful for, the more we'll find to be thankful for. And Matthew Fox says that one way of grasping the four paths is to understand them as four commandments or signposts that can energize us for the journey. For the Via Positiva, it is, thou shalt fall in love at least 3 times a day. Not just with a lover, but we can fall in love with a galaxy, since there are 1 trillion of them. Or we could fall in love with a star, of which there are 200 billion in our galaxy alone. Or a species of wildflower, of which there are at least 10,000 on this planet. Or a species of bird, of fish, of tree, of plant. Or with another human being, preferably one different than ourselves. We could fall in love with music, poetry, painting, dance. You know, if we fell in love with one of Mozart's works each week, we would have 7 years of joy. How could we ever be bored? You know, we can look at life in 2 ways. Through the eyes of lack or the eyes of plenty. Fear sees limits while love sees possibilities. And this is a universe, a cosmos that has unlimited possibilities, and it gives abundantly. Well, Matthew Fox has a new book coming out. He has over 40 books now. Imagine writing 40 books. Well, his newest book is based on Julian of Norwich. And she was an early Christian mystic. And one of the things Fox has done is write books about these early Christian mystics who mainstream Christianity is not even that familiar with. And, you know, because mysticism isn't necessarily always focused on, but unity is mystical Christianity, and so it's a wonderful fit for us. But this book on Julian of Norwich, I don't think it will quite be out by the time he comes, or not, he doesn't come, but he will join us for our virtual event on October 3rd, but I think it is coming out in October. And one of the things about Julian of Norwich is she sounds very much like a unity person in some ways. Listen to this quote by her. She said, "I know well that heaven and earth and all creation are great, generous, and beautiful and good. God's goodness fills all his creatures, and all his blessed works full and endlessly overflows in them. God is everything which is good, and as I see it, and the goodness which everything has is God." Wow, beautiful quote from Julian of Norwich. Let us look for our blessings, fall in love at least 3 times a day, and become awestruck by the wonders of creation. God bless you. Have a wonderful, awe-filled week.